guys, and welcome to Midweek with India Charts. This is Muskan Kapoor, your host, and I'm joined here with Jay Bora. There has been a lot happening lately. Last month, कुछ और scenarios चल रहे थे. अभी last week कुछ और scenario चल रहा है. There has been a lot going on. So I really am excited for this session to clear out multiple things. So without any further ado, I will just dive right in. So, as I said, a lot has happened in the past 1 week. The US non farm payroll data, the US CPI data, as well as the SVB bank mess that has been going on. Apart from
Yes.
that, today I saw news that spoke about Credit Suisse Bank, which has collapsed in today's trading session. What
Right.
do you make out of all of this?
So yes, a lot has happened in the past 1 week. So first, if we go by the payroll data, so I think that was slightly above expectation, which is still telling us that the jobs data is good and the US economy is relatively strong. Okay, if we go by the CPI data, that has declined a bit, and it is declining at a lower pace.
Hmm.
But again, that was in line with the expectation. So had we had only these two data, you could have expected Fed to either hike rate by 25 bips or 50 bips. But then came the SVB bank mess. Okay, so wherein the management control was taken over by the Fed, and now they are managing the crisis. So, now that has led to an uncertainty whether the Fed is going to hike the rates or no. So, the best case scenario, I think, is that the Fed hikes the rate by 25 basis point, or it leaves it unchanged and it tells the market that they are monitoring the situation closely. Because if you see the bond yields of 2 year, which is more reflective of how the Fed is going to do the rate hikes and all. So that has collapsed from 5.05 to 4.05. Okay, so that if we go by the bond yields, then it is telling us that maybe there might not be a rate hike. But let's see what it happens in the coming Fed meet. Now coming to the bank collapse, so I think when this news broke out, so I was actually going through the chart of the banks. So I would just like to share that. So if you see, what has happened is that if we go by the share prices, SVB Bank, yeah. So you can see over here, the trend was established over here. So you can see it forming lower high, lower lows, and if you just put the setup of bands and averages, it had come back to the 40 week, and it had come to the upper weekly band, and then again it collapsed. Okay, so if you see the long term chart, so, there has been a sharp decline from the levels of 800. Okay, it had already corrected to 200 prior to, all this broke out. So, somewhere I think, the market was probably knowing all this, okay, that this may happen, and that is why there was been a correction. And then, if you see, then bad news typically comes towards the end of when, everything happens. So that seems to be the case, because if you see the chart of Credit Suisse,
Hmm.
I think that is even worse than this. Yeah, wait, I'll just put it on investing. I mean, in investing, it is you can actually easily get the codes. In trading, it is slightly difficult. So I just open it on investing. So yeah, meanwhile, what I wanted to say was that Credit Suisse ka chart was no different. It has been declining since 2008, and every time whenever there is a crisis, so ya to Deutsche Bank, or else it used to be Credit Suisse Bank, who always used to come in the news.
Hmm.
Okay, because for all the wrong reasons, the banks are collapsing, so these two are the first ones to collapse. So that has always been the case. I mean, be it 2014, 15 around, at that time the crisis was there. I think that time Deutsche Bank's name used to come first, but since last 1 year or so, Credit Suisse has been in the news for all of these reasons. So if we see, Credit Suisse ADR. So you can see the chart over here. If I don't do a log chart, you can see that it has been declining. And every time, whenever there is some crisis in the banking, this name appears that, this bank is going to get screwed, etc. So I think somewhere I feel that, this is actually a capitulation that is happening, or you can say that this could be the last phase of all the bad news that we are seeing. So, but if you specifically look at the US, the things that are happening in US indices. So, I mean, not US indices, but US bank is that the Fed has stepped in, okay, and see what had happened in SVB bank was that it wanted to sell bonds, okay, so it had to sell it at a lower rate and it had to, take that losses. So all that was happening, okay, for the mortgage-backed bonds. But then the Fed stepped in and they said that if there is no liquidity which you have, and if you want to sell it bonds, you can sell it to me. I will give you the entire sum amount for that. Okay, so that can avert such kind of situations and such kind of panic. So that has been a very positive case. So that is why you could actually see the US indices, kind of rebounding in yesterday's trading session. But now again, the German thing has come about, and I mean, we are seeing this Credit Suisse bank collapse and all of this headlines coming. So this is again sentimentally impacting the global indices. So actually, that was one of the reasons, why our Bank Nifty index, which was trading okay till the afternoon, but suddenly it started seeing a correction. So maybe I think, it was because of all of this, in which there was an anticipation for the Indian markets as well. And we, kind of closed lower. So we'll discuss about the Indian indices in detail later. But effectively, I mean, just to sum it up, what I'm trying to say is that all of this bad news eventually comes, when we are in the late stage of correction. Remember that we have been in a time-wise correction almost for 1.5 year. So, typically a bear market do last for around 1.5 year or so. Okay, there is nothing, I mean, there is no thumb rule that it cannot extend beyond that. But typically, if we have seen, in terms of average tenure of the bear market, it has been around 18 months. And, we are getting over there. Okay, and these kind of news are only, making it more prominent that we are getting into that last phase of the correction.
Correct. Makes sense. It does look like if anything has to happen, अभी ही हो जाए ताकि फिर उसके बाद हम क्लियर हो जाए. अभी कुछ भी बैड न्यूज आनी है तो सब साथ में आ जाओ. वैसे ही piled up हुए हैं, I feel like, with a lot of news that's been coming around. But yeah, hopefully this will pass. Moving on to when you said we'll talk in details about the Nifty index, I have a question regarding that as well. So I want to understand what's your short-term and medium-term view of the dollar index in particular and the emerging indices. How are they poised? While talking about the emerging indices, if you could also tell us how the Nifty index has been reacting and what do you make of the FII's short positioning, which has now reached 2022 ka June level. So if you could focus on that.
So yes, first to your point, this correction has been, something of this sort of correction, okay, zigzag. And these sort of corrections are always very painful, okay, because all it tries to do is that it is, like trying to buy time. And because you have run up so much. Yeah. So because वो run up भी इतना strong था, wherein, all the indices, they went 2x, 3x. So now the Nifty index is taking time to, grasp all that gains and, kind of consolidate. So that is the whole backdrop over here. Now coming to the dollar index, one thing I think there is a strong agreement amongst the people that maybe dollar index may have topped out. Okay, the reason why I say this is because there has been a very sharp decline from the top. Okay, and so far, if you see the daily chart, okay, the rise is looking corrective, okay, wherein it is overlapping. So this is telling us that if this decline is was one wave, okay, you call it as A or one, then right now what we are seeing is wave B or two. Okay. Now the only catch in this, that is where I think the medium term trend is clear that once this pullback is complete, okay, it is here or somewhere over here, then we are going to get next leg of decline. Okay, that is something I think we are very much sure about. But when we come to the short term pullback, if you see in terms of retracement, okay, if you see just in the terms of retracement, then it has not even done 38.2% so far. And typically, like I said, that there isn't any rule that, you do 50% or 61.8%, but like 61.8% is a kind of a max pullback, which typically happens in a bear market. Okay, so if this is a primary trend, okay, and this is just a pullback, then the highest, probably the dollar index can go is 61.8%, which is somewhere around 109.50. But are we going to get there or no? That is a point of debate at this point of time. So we are monitoring the moves as of now. But if you see the weekly chart, it has actually taken resistance around the 20-week average. Okay, you can see this golden line. But I'll remove the lines. Yeah. So if you see over here, it is right at the 20-week average. Okay. So if that is crossed, then yes, we are going to see a pullback towards the 40-week average. I think the 40-week average is at, okay, the 40-week average is also around that same level. So if that is taken out on a closing basis, especially on a weekly closing basis, then we can think of a move towards the upper Bollinger Band, which is the weekly upper Bollinger Band. So in that case, a pullback towards 107, 108 may open up. Okay. If that has to happen, then, near term, there will be some pain in the market. Whether we see a very deep correction or a sideways, slow grind on the downside, that is something we need to see. But, when you see the emerging markets, okay, so right now, I don't really want to show you the index because it says that, it has been outperforming. But if you see the internal components of, the emerging markets, so if you see Taiwan index, that has actually done almost a 61.8% retracement of the entire up move. Okay, so if we see from COVID low to the high, so it has nearly done 61.8%. If you see the Kospi index, that has done a 61.8% retracement. So let me just extend it. So it has done a 61.8% retracement. Then if you see the Thailand index, that has been falling lately. But over there also, if you see, it is just a sideways sort of consolidation that is happening. Okay, even if you see today, so there has been a very bad week for the the Thailand index. But if you see today, it has managed and to bounce back from this lower support range. Okay, if you see other indices like Bovespa, this has been into a corrective phase since June 2021. Okay, prior to many other markets, it had topped out. So it has been into that corrective phase, and over here it looks like that this was W, this was X, this was Y, this is X, and maybe one last leg is pending. So maybe a 3-4% correction more, and it comes back to the previous low, and it completes a Z over here. Okay, so over here as well, if you see a prolonged correction is coming to an end, then on the other hand, if you see other index like Hang Seng, which is the Hong Kong index, that is actually the talking point. Okay, because if you see over here in the last, I think 10 or 12 years, it has literally done nothing. So if I do the monthly chart, You can see over here, it is almost at, okay, 2000 ka level. So almost 20 years it has done nothing. Okay. And now this rise, I mean, this is a little tricky, but we can actually count it as an impulse move. Okay, so impulse move for people who don't know, it is basically the direction of the trend. So if this is an impulse move, then ideally the correction which we are witnessing right now is just a counter trend rally. So if this is an impulse move, this is a counter trend rally. Once the pullback is complete, you will at least see next leg of up move. Okay, so Hang Seng Index was one. If you see the Hang Seng Tech Index, okay, that has actually declined somewhere around 70% from the peak. Okay, and when you see the weekly time frame, there is a clean 5-wave rise that is visible. Okay, there is a clean 5-wave rise that is visible, which is telling you that this is an impulse move. And right now, what we are seeing is just a pullback. Okay, of which I think it has done nearly 50% retracement. So over here as well, if we see, so there will be probably a retracement up to 61.8%. But then I think post that, you can actually see this index moving higher. Okay. And also in terms of chart patterns, if you see, then it is possibly forming, some kind of inverse HNS pattern. You can see over here that it is forming an inverse HNS pattern. So in this entire backdrop, actually what I'm trying to say is that when you look at the Asian indices, they are not that bad, okay? Because already they have fallen a lot. And now what is happening is that when they are at the bottom, we are seeing all the negative news flow. Okay, when you spoke about the Nifty index as well, right?
Yes.
So for Nifty index, if you see, after this sort of runaway rally, this is just a time consolidation which is happening. Okay, so again, there has been probably few a bit of misunderstanding from the people who are listening to us. So what actually we are trying to tell is that the Nifty index has been in a correction for almost 18 months. Okay. So somewhere, we are getting towards that end point. Now, whether we get till here and then move up, or till here and then move up, is something which we are trying to figure out through the, short term moves. And so far, what is happening is that if you see the daily chart, okay, if you see the daily chart, just ignore the markings and the lines. This has been done long back and I have not really updated the chart. But if you see over here, this has been a 3-wave decline, a pullback, a 3-wave decline, a pullback, a 3-wave decline, a pullback, now a 3-wave decline. So actually what is happening is that this entire correction is a complex correction. Okay. So until we don't find an impulse move, wherein we see a clear 5-wave rise, until then, there is a chance that, we might continue to see this this ABCX kind of move. Okay. Wherein we complete this pullback over here, then we see a pullback, then again we decline, then we see a pullback, then we see a decline. So this can continue to happen unless we don't see a clean 5-wave rise over here. Okay, so that is what we are trying to find from the bottom, but we are not able to find that. Now, why we say that, the sentiment has reached some kind of extreme. So this is, today's data is not updated. Okay. But if you purely look at this chart, then what you can see is that this green line is the FII short positioning. Okay. Now that has actually come back towards the June low, which we had seen over here. Okay. You can, what had happened after June 2022, we got a meaningful rally. Okay. So we are coming back to this zone. The only time when this was broken was during the COVID phase, okay, wherein it went to almost around 1,70,000 contracts or so. And right now, as we speak, we are almost at 1,44,000 contract. So we are kind of coming towards that lower range. Okay, it is just that we need to keep a bit of a patience, because we don't know if there will be a short covering rally from this point only, or we go back till this point and then we cover shorts. But as of now, if we go by the technical levels, okay, then what it is telling is that the Nifty index is now coming back to the lower end of the range. It is at the 50% retracement of the entire up move. Okay. So if you ask me honestly, this is not a level to short. Okay. We would probably wait for a bounce.
Yeah.
And if the bounce confirms that it is a corrective, then we would again think that maybe the decline is going to, happen in this channel. But as of now, we are kind of reaching to an extreme. So a pullback could be around the corner. Now, whether this pullback is just a short-term pullback or a medium-term pullback is something we will get to know only from the rise. So if the rise is 5-wave rise, then we might think that the bottom could be done and we might be headed higher. But if there is a 3-wave rise, which is happening, then there is a chance that this, correction can get prolonged. Okay, the only time I think this will not work is when if there is a black swan event. So what is happening right now, if this is a black swan event and if this has to translate into something big, then that is the only time, I think you might get a very steep correction, okay, without any major pullback, which we had seen it during the COVID crisis. Okay, in the COVID crisis, if you see, the decline was almost vertical. So for that also to happen, I think the clue which we can get is from that whether the Nifty index is actually holding this channel or no. Okay, so if there is a breach, okay, and there is a pullback, and the Nifty index is not getting above the channel, that will be a clue that maybe, things are getting worse and we need to be careful. But as of now, we are at the lower end of the range. And if all is well and, if there is no black swan event at this point of time, then we would expect the Nifty index to at least see a bounce in the near term. Now, as I mentioned earlier, whether this bounce turns out to be a short-term correction, short-term corrective pullback or a medium-term reversal will be known only once the move unfolds.
Correct.
So broadly, I think, just to sum it up, that we are in a medium-term consolidation phase. Okay. We are into that phase right now. So, and within that, if you see, we are witnessing complex correction, which means that the up move and the down moves are going to take some time. Okay. The break of this channel will be the clue if things are getting very bad and, if something ugly is going to happen or no. If at all, this channel is saved. Okay. So we might get a 1 or 2 day breach. But once again, if the Nifty index comes back within the channel, then there is a case that, you might see this low grinding decline continue unless we see an impulsive move from the bottom.
Correct. Makes sense. So we just have to look out as to how the markets will be placed in the days to come to understand as to where we stand and how news might attack or not attack this entire.
So right now, given that the news flow is such bad and, people are thinking of end of the world. So what I'm just trying to highlight is that the Nifty is actually coming to an area, where a reversal can possibly happen if things are not so bad, as the news flow is floating around. Because typically when you see, in the later stage of the correction, that is when you actually see this kind of move.
Correct. So if environmental,
because we are seeing this kind of moves right now, okay, so there could be a case that this is all, panic which is being created, because right now, whatever happens, the media blows it up so much that we actually don't get to know if the issue is very bad or is it okay.
Correct. Makes sense. So we just have to wait for most of it to settle down to actually understand where the market is leading us. But yes, it was very insightful to get all of this information. and to understand how and what I have to play in the market now and how much I have to wait for it to unfold, basically.
And just one thing before we wrap up. So broadly, an investor, this is probably a time to accumulate. Okay. And for trader, this is the time to go with the trend. Okay. So right now the trend is down, but as soon as you see a reversal, brace yourself for a reversal. And if those reversals convert into a bigger up move, okay, wherein the averages are broken and we see a 5 wave rise, that is where you can say that the trend is reversing. So from a short term perspective, stick to the trend, because right now we are making lower high, lower lows. So there is no doubt about that. But from an investor perspective, I think many of the stocks have corrected 30, 40, 50, 60% as well. So it might make sense, to look at those where you have conviction and, where the outlook is better from the medium term perspective. So from a trader perspective, you go with the trend and, trade how the Nifty is moving. And from the investment perspective, I think, this long consolidation is probably coming to an end. So this could actually be an opportunity. And, it makes sense to slowly accumulate and, build the portfolio.
Correct. Makes sense. Thank you so much. This was very important for us to know. And yes, thank you for the session overall. Thank you.
Thank you.